Well, you know when you know, but you don't know because you never know, you know.
Yeah, what year was that? Like
It
2007?
was like 99 or 2000.
03.
Was that
When
really?
we were there, yeah.
Yeah.
Alexa.
Though. Hey, Alexa, buy pants. Well, we've seen people time and time again say, well, for that money, I could just go to concerts for years.
It's true.
And that's kind of true. Yeah, that's a valid option.
You might be able to hire your own band too.
Yeah.
If you're at $100,000, hell, you could have a band once a month come in and play for an hour or two.
You could,
Live.
yeah.
It is a little inconvenient.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, maybe you could set up a room just for that.
Would they know all the
this is my
tracks,
band
though?
room?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They can't just play any.
Oh, now play.
Yeah, you are a little more limited in what you can listen to then, though.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know.
Yeah. Well, you got to find the right band.
Oh.
That's kind of the same deal, right? Find the right system, find the right band. Hell, we got a player piano. It's not the roll style player piano, but you know, a Yamaha that plays itself. You can get one of those bad boys. They're only 35, 40 G's.
Yeah, but then you could only listen to piano, though.
Yeah, well, it's got speakers on it.
Well,
So technically,
They're pretty bad.
It can
yeah,
play.
right. You'd have to upgrade it. Yeah.
Oh, sure, but you could then now we're getting expensive. But that's kind of like close to having a live band all the time. 'cause
Kinda.
The piano's live.
Yeah.
and
Well, it's
just the rest of it.
legitimately a piano, so it sounds like a piano.
Yeah, right.
And I think that sounds obvious when you say it, but most things that are playing piano don't sound like piano unless they're piano.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, you could pretty much always tell that.
Piano's pretty hard
It's
to
tough to fool you.
replicate.
Yeah, just stand around a corner where there's a piano playing. You come by the door and it just gets liver as you get closer.
Oh, liver.
More
And
live.
If it was speakers live, more live. Yeah. If it was speakers, it would get less live as you got closer. Typically, typically.
Yeah, I guess distant down the hall speakers playing piano. Yeah, sounds
Sometimes you
kind of
can
like
fool
a piano.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fickle thing, though, because I think most people, if they're going through the hobby and they're buying this and that, like most people do, they're fiddling around. Eventually, they seem to stumble on a point where they're like, I'm happy with this. So they think, right? The question is, how do you know at that time that in 3 months or 3 years, you're not going to be questioning whether or not this new thing that came out is something you're interested in?
Don't look. That's how you do it.
Just stay
Stop
away.
looking.
Don't go on the forums.
Avoid
hide.
everything. Yep. I'm done. Maybe coming back in 20 years or something.
Is that like not watching the news? It's kind of like that
Kinda
too.
like
You
that,
have no idea that anything around you has changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
Everything's the
Nothing
same
happened.
to me.
Yeah.
Grass is still growing.
As
I
long
gotta
as it's
cut
not
it.
like a
It's true.
volcano cropping up right here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from that perspective, if you paid attention to nothing, you didn't leave your house, nobody talked to you, you didn't talk to anyone, nothing happened. You just stayed at home all
Well,
day,
you probably
every day.
die of loneliness, but yeah,
Aside from that,
yeah.
you wouldn't. Why would anything change, right? If you like this thing, and nothing's going to happen in 5 years.
Well, if you
why
were
would you not
if you
like
were
it?
that committed to being
To liking your system.
to being by yourself, then yeah, that robot joke would probably be funny. Though.
Oh, yeah, you think so?
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's things that I've used to be into and then kind of stopped for like even 10 years. Then you come back and you're like,
That's true.
Oh, things have changed here. You know,
Yeah.
you could literally avoid it completely.
Yeah, I bet that happens a lot with like cameras. Like I know, like we've got
You get what's good.
you get a really good
now,
lens.
and
You
then you don't need a
Canon
new
L
one.
glass,
Yeah.
whatever, and you're like, okay, I got my lenses, I got my camera, and then, they come out with new bodies every year or two, but
Yeah.
looks fine to me. The picture looks good on the screens.
Yeah,
I
you got to
got.
give that a decade.
Yeah,
before you're
a couple
thinking.
years at least. Yeah, I heard. I guess they're saying they're not. They're gonna. Some companies are gonna stop making the what do they call it? The DSLRs.
Probably.
I guess
yeah.
they're thinking about like, I don't know, reducing the
Sales have to be way down.
Yeah.
Phones are getting pretty
Yeah.
good now.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I guess no one's buying them if they're.
I
not
guess
gonna make
that's the
them.
thing, though, because I used to be into photography. I used to have a DSLR, and I guess I still do, but I don't use it.
Yeah, right.
Right. And it used to be a big advantage to have a DSLR
Yeah, big
over
time.
a cell phone or whatever, a point and shoot.
You were the family
now
photographer.
it's not. And it's not to say that DSLRs aren't better. Obviously they are. But you look at the cost of the package, the size, the complexity, the difficulty to carry it around and stuff like that. It's so much different than carrying your phone. You already have your phone with you anyways. So it's comparatively, it's pretty obvious that phones hit a point now where most people don't buy a second camera. They don't buy a point and shoot or DSLR. You don't really need it most of the time for the functions you're looking for. the phone does it.
So that kind of sets a level when you see that, like with video or even video and picture photography, is that's your personal level. Like that's you're good. That's good enough for you, and you don't really have a need for anything better. And that's kind of what audio I think
Same
is
kind
too.
of thing. Yeah, because if a picture looks good today, it'll look good in 50 years still, right?
Yeah. Well, if it's printed,
Right. Well,
I guess
digital is kind of different.
You see that on the
Yeah.
forums a lot, though. People get upset that a new model comes out. Oh no, now my current model is obsolete, useless garbage, even though I was just praising it a week ago, right? But nothing changed. Your thing still does the same thing it did. The difference is there's a new one that you assume is a little bit better, and you have the itch to get it.
Well, you got to admit, the TVs have come a long way, screens have come a long way, videos come a long way.
It's true.
4K is at a pretty good level for being what I would think is for watching movies about as realistic as we're probably going to get in some time. I mean, think about it. We haven't seen in the last 20 years or so, haven't seen dramatic where, if you've looked at the top of the line capabilities of, say, Y2K at the year 2000, compared to the top of the line capabilities of video, it's become more consumer oriented. It certainly has trickled
if you go
down.
It's a
high end
lot
enough,
cheaper, but in absolute terms,
But in
it
terms
hasn't
of-
gotten much
right,
better.
Yeah, in terms of the actual quality.
Yeah.
Hell, I mean, other than it trickling down to the pretty much every household, it hasn't really changed.
The
from what I've
difference is
seen.
instead of needing to be like professional stuff, you can go to Walmart and get stuff
It's
that's
all built into
comparable
one
to 20
chip.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, $200 instead of 20,000.
20 years ago, you needed a rack full of gear
That's
6 feet high. Now it's a chip.
Yeah, you need a $150,000 projector. Yeah, rack of equipment.
Yeah.
I remember that CES when you were doing with the people that were making the scaler.
TAW.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
year was that? Like
It was
2007?
like 99 or
03.
2000.
03.
Was that
When
early?
we were there, yeah.
Yeah. Was it?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
03?
that was a while ago then. I
Yeah.
guess it was pre-iPhone, so yeah.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, but I remember thinking, wow, this picture looks good.
Yeah.
And
It was good.
You go to Best Buy or whatever, you look at the TVs they have there. At that time, they were garbage compared to this. But now, you could buy a $200 TV and it looks better.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's complicated because that's not to say that old system isn't bad or is bad and should be thrown out and replaced. It's just the price point brought down to the point where everybody could afford it. So how do you know whether or not you hit endgame then? Because that's the difficult point.
It's a sliding scale.
Everything
yeah.
gets better, but what gets better about it changes. Because in consumer stuff, usually what changes is things get cheaper. But in kind of more boutique stuff, you hope things don't necessarily just get cheaper. You hope they get better as well.
Maybe it's an existential question with a dead end.
It's a difficult one to answer. I don't know.
Well, there is no real answer. Is the answer.
Yeah. Well, you know when you know, but
Yeah.
you don't know because you never know. Joe?
Kind of. Because there's no doubt if you have a thing and you're happy with it, well, it's fine. That pretty much is your end game.
Pretty much.
If you pretty much feel it does what you want, you go to a trade show or whatever, you hear other people's systems and setups, and it doesn't make you feel an overwhelming urge to go out and buy it, I think you're probably there. That's fine. And it
This
could
is
be at
true.
any price point. It doesn't matter.
I read into
$10, $10,000, whatever.
where it's like you think what you have is good, but then you see some new hotness out, and you're like, oh, actually, they've come a long way, and then you get back into it. There's
Yeah,
a trigger usually
that happens.
That happens.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. There is a trigger involved with anything. Yeah. It could
You're
be,
like, I think
could be a
this is
car,
fine.
it could be
Yeah.
a boat,
Yeah,
it could be a, whatever you're doing. Could be a food item, a steak.
That happened to me with computers.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of into computers a while ago, like 08 or something like that. 04, 08, I would say. And then I kind of faded out,
Yeah.
09, 10, around there. And there was a long span where I didn't care, right? Nothing new coming out really was exciting to me or whatever. Didn't really do a thing. that
I'd
I
say
was
about the
excited
last
about.
decade's been like that.
It's been like that for about 10 years or so. And nowadays, it's totally different.
Yeah.
The new stuff that's coming out is vastly superior to the old stuff, and it's comparatively exciting.
It's about time.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But with audio, how do you know?
Well, with anything, how do you know?
Yeah.
It's a little bit different with audio because at least with audio, you're dealing with a finite limit. You're dealing with a human. So if it sounds good now, it probably will still sound good later. It's just your experience could change. And if your experience changes, well, then yeah, you could go back and say, is it turns out this thing that I thought sounded good doesn't actually sound all that good.
Yeah, so I think that in that, looking at the big picture, well, all that we just discussed, and adding it, summing it up, I think that this question has to be answered at that time of your life, and that it's like a pocket of time where it might be a year or 10 years where you're in that bubble of time with that device or whatever, and that's that. Whatever you reach, whatever peak you reach, that's the peak at that time. And then if
maximum.
something bumps you out of that time bubble into the next level or whatever, then now you're at, that's a whole different
Oh, yeah, it's like
game.
a different universe with different rules.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
yeah.
kind of like that,
Yeah.
though. It feels like that, at least.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, you're no longer carbon bonded to the chicken.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, now you've got some new hotness, like nanotubes.
Hotness, nanotubes.
Connecting you together. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the ticket, laddie. That's the ticket.
Yeah, reasonable enough way to put it.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that.
Yeah, and that's as good as we're going to be able to do.
Just
today.
like everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you have these open-ended questions. You're gonna leave it open-ended.
Yeah.
There's no option because there is no right answer.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it was just like, all right, 47. That's the
Usually it's
answer.
47.
Yeah.
Well, it could be 9 too. It depends on what you're looking at.
No.
No?
It's always
3
47.
times 3. On that note, we got to get going. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Remember to subscribe to us. Click subscribe if you're not watching us on a TV. Your laptop or your phone has a subscribe button
Yeah,
down there.
wherever they're listening to our podcast that we have available at all your favorite podcast locations.
Yeah, that's right.
How do they subscribe then?
Yeah, if you ask Siri about Abyss top of the line,
Alexa.
Though. Hey, Alexa, buy pants.
I never tried Alexa. I don't have her. You?
Nope.
No.
Someone will have to try it and tell us if it works in the comments. Hey, Alexa, I want to listen to Abyss top of the line video. Think she'll find it?
I don't know.
We'll find out. Thanks, everyone. Take care.